All right, ladies and gentlemen, and we are back, and it is an absolute honor today to sit down with the legend, Josh Hayes. Welcome to the podcast, Josh.
How you doing, pal?
I'm absolutely proper mega, as I always say, man. Today's been a huge day for me to sit down and have this conversation with you. And I know me and you got a lot to talk about. So, man, I just want to get into it, man. I want to get your story out there from the humble beginning. Mississippi madman, right? Let's go, right? So, Josh, take us from the beginning, man. How did you get into bikes from the very beginning?
Man, that's a little bit of a tough one, I guess. But my dad was a firefighter. He was a mechanic kind of guy anyway. He liked motorcycles. Unfortunately, his father told him if he ever caught him on a motorcycle, he'd break both of his legs. And so my dad kind of revolted at 18 when he left the house and got a motorcycle to kind of rub it in my grandfather's face, I guess. But he always loved them. He liked them, stuff like that. Pretty simple means in our family. We were South Mississippi. My dad was a carpenter, and then when I was 2, he became a firefighter. Sorry about the noise. Got a loud family over here. In the with all of that, my dad, we never afforded anything new. So, but he worked on all these different houses, and he was a junk merchant. He could find junk in people's backyards all over the place. He was incredible at it. He was the kind of guy that pulled over on the side of the interstate when he saw a wrench laying on the side of the interstate, pick it up and bring it home. He had collections of rubber straps and wrenches and tools and stuff like that. And so I remember, he did get an old round metal tank Z50 at one point that we tinkered with, but I didn't get to ride it very much. I bothered him about motorcycles pretty often. I would go to the local motorcycle dealership on my bicycle and stuff, which was a pretty far ride for me when I was pretty young, but I'd get all the posters and stick them on the walls. And so when I was 11, he got me a DS80, a metal tank twin shock, little 2-stroke DS80 trail bike, basically, for Christmas, that he had found in somebody's backyard for like $80. And, him and the firefighters cleaned it up and got it going. And I rode that thing for quite a few years until, we got our driver's license at 15. And there was one other kid in town that had a motorcycle, but we didn't get to ride very often together. And I rode in a little field next to the airport. And I just remember my dad was so strict about it. He was like, you better have a helmet on. And I was allowed to go ride by myself, but he was like, you better have a helmet on. And I was allowed to ride in the alley between down the blocks, and I had to ride past the fire station. And Dad's like, listen, I know every cop in town. I know every firefighter. I know everybody in the neighborhood. I dare you to mess up. You better be in first gear going out to your little area to ride and riding back. And so I'd go out there and ride by myself and just whatever little berm track I could push up by myself in a sandy field with a DS80. And I got flats regularly, and I was constantly fixing flat tires and looking for something I could jump, anything I could jump, which never really found much. So, and, then at 15, we got to drive. So that kind of went by the wayside. And you get into high school, and my first vehicle was, God, it was miserable. It was this Chevy C10 Chevy pickup truck that was a different color of primer on every surface on the truck, and it had steel wheels with street tires on the front, and it had aluminum mags with off-road tires on the back, and like seats like captain's chairs out of a van with a wooden console and a 6x9 that he had built in the middle. Oh my God, it was a turd. I was embarrassed to be seen in it. So I was allowed to drive it to work and school, and that was it, And I started wheeling and dealing vehicles. My uncle was also into motorcycles. For a small while, my dad had a GPZ 550, and I got to ride on the back of that with him a few times, and he'd strap a fishing pole to the side of it, and we'd go ride and find some little ditch that he'd like to fish out of or something from time to time. And I loved going on motorcycle rides with him. And then my uncle, he got sport bikes, and he was like the cool uncle that was cruising around the sport bikes. And, he was, I would see that, and I was enamored with them, and the whole idea. They look like fighter jets, with the fully fared motorcycles of the late 80s and early 90s. And then through enough wheeling and dealing vehicles in high school, I worked my way into a salvage title CBR 600 F2. And my best friend from high school, who you may know, Stephen Breckenridge, who is a racer in his own right, he got his GSXR 750 about 2 weeks apart, So we spent our senior year, basically the end of our senior year, being hooligans on street bikes in
Chasing
southern
chicks.
Mississippi.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I was too damn shy. Now, old bedroom eyes Breckenridge, he had a lot more luck than I did when it came to the ladies, unfortunately. But it was funny because, like, as the only two kids, with motorcycles around, we made quite a few friends with all the military guys. This was a strong military town. We had a Navy base on one side or an Air Force base on the other. And all of the local guys that rode motorcycles were all military guys. So they were sneaking us into bars at 18 years old because we were just hanging out with all these older military guys, and we'd kind of walk around the back and sneak through and hang out. And, Steve and I are just like looking at all the girls in the bar like, this is awesome, but we were useless when it came to talking to one. So
like, we made it. Yes.
Yeah, that was enough. Right. So, and then when came graduation time, he went off in the Navy, and I stuck around the house. Right. And I was just working on wheeling and dealing, and I really, my dream motorcycle at that time was the base paint job, the white with the red and blue blocks Honda CBR 900. Like, that was the machine. That was the pinnacle. It's what I would have killed for, right? And I finally get to this point where I'm working, and all these things are happening, and I worked it out. I was going to sell my bike. I'd gotten the title cleaned up on my bike, and it was ugly, but it was functional. I had a guy who was going to buy it, and I had financing kind of set up. I was going to go get this Honda 900, and I rode down, and being in South Mississippi, we were right on the coast, and all my buddies, all those military guys, we met on the beach down at the service drive at a Chevron gas station and watched girls walk around during the summer, and we were down there, and one of those Southern Thunder boomers came in. It's a storm. It's about 2 miles in circle, that just comes over and dumps a bunch of water and disappears. And I saw it coming, and we weren't really going to go out and ride anywhere. And I said, I think I'm going to cruise home. And on the way home, I kind of got into that storm, into the corner of that storm, and a car went to make a U-turn in a spot he wasn't supposed to, and kind of bowed up traffic. And here I go, tuck the front, hit the back of the car in front of me, and absolutely killed my motorcycle. And so I was devastated. Life-altering event. What
am I gonna do?
What am I gonna do? Right. And so, this is one of those times that happens in your life that you look back and that was the worst thing that at that point in my life, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. All my dreams are shot. If I had purchased that Honda 900, I would have never had a penny in my pocket to go try the racetrack. So this was a huge event that happened that I thought was the end, and it ended up being the beginning, and my story started from there. So local guy, the local Suzuki shop, his son, the guy who owned it, his son was a little younger than me, roughly my age. And he had done some motocross when he was a kid. They had the dealership most of his life, I think. And I didn't even know club racing existed. And he went and tried a Ware Southeast club race and came back and was telling us all about it. And so I ended up going with him to spectate for one of these races, and went to Savannah, Georgia. And that was my first introduction that there was such a thing as racing other than the racing I saw on TV. So I came home, and I was pretty determined that looked like fun. I wanted to give it a shot, and I was supposed to be going off to do community college or figure out the next part of my life, but I was working. I graduated high school. My dad was pretty supportive. Dad and mom were pretty supportive. Hey, you want to work and you want to go play a little bit, whatever. You know what I mean? Small town, we're going to, whatever. And my dad was like, oh, this is amazing, right? So I did some wheeling and dealing, and I said, oh, I'm going to go do this thing. And I ended up getting enough stuff together. My parents co-signed for me to get a loan, a small personal loan. And I was able to put together quite a bit of stuff. I got pretty lucky. I found another crashed insurance buyback Honda 600 that I was able to buy for like $1,000 or something like that. And then, lucky as it was, I went home, I changed the main fuse, and I got the bike to start and run. And it had like 1,300 miles on it. So I was like, jackpot,
Winning.
I now had a commuter to work and a race bike. This was amazing. So,
and a spare motor and rims and
oh
swing arm
man,
and all
whatever,
that. Yeah.
whatever. Well, I mean, this was my primary vehicle. So I was riding one to work and either taking it to the track, or I managed to get this, and that changed it a little bit. But I got leathers. Back then, I think the AGV had a leather set that you could get in the Dennis Curtin catalog for about $400, $300. I bought that. I got a new Arai helmet, gloves, boots. Bought some fiberglass bodywork that was used and slightly scuffed out of the classified ads in Road Racing World magazine. And
back when the magazine was this big.
Yeah. And I ended up going to Little Talladega with a friend from high school to the Ed Bargy Race School and doing it. And, it was my first taste of it. And it was like, oh, yeah, I had the bug really, really, really bad. But I didn't know anything about it. Well, as luck would have it, my uncle that I talked about, who had the motorcycles, he lived in Mobile, Alabama. And he had a street bike. And one of his hooligan riding buddies happened to be this guy named Grant Lopez, who raced and was actually already a national champion. So he knew his way around it. And so he introduced Grant and I. And, at that time, the track day that we know now did not exist. It was, you went to Ed's race school or a racing school and you went club racing. But he did have school dates where while they were in the classroom, anybody who had a racing license or had passed his school was able to go ride, but it had to be a race prepped motorcycle. So it really was for racers. It wasn't for somebody to bring their street bike and go try the racetrack. You had to take his school to get on the track. So Grant was going to get ready for the season. So he was going up to do one of these Ed Bargy days, and I traveled with him. And he goes, okay, well, you want to try the first race? It's February. And so we kind of wheeled and dealed, and I said, okay, we will split the cost. And I think he had done this with quite a few people and nobody ever stuck with it, but the first race was in Talladega. I get finished at work on Friday. I drive to Mobile, Alabama. I had to borrow my mom's V6 Firebird with a 3-rail motorcycle trailer. My mom didn't have a car for the weekend, right?
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. So I drive to Mobile, take the bike off of the trailer, put it into his van, which was, man, this van was special. This one stuck with me for a while. I actually had this van for a few years, but it was a old Chevy panel van that was tan, and it got named the Moldy Biscuit for good reason. And again, like it, two motorcycles that fit. We put toolboxes up against the backs of the seats. You stuff the motorcycles in there, and we had a like a curtain because it got hot back there. So we had like a blanket behind the driver's seats. There was only 2 seats in this thing, so behind there, and then somebody would sit on a console, and it had a 4-speed on the floor. This thing was a pile. It was great though. And I remember he put like a AutoZone lifetime warranty clutch in it, and he put a rear end in it that in first gear the thing would go like 60 miles an hour. So it was hard to leave a light, but it cruised at a pretty low RPM, and we got decent gas mileage because of it, right? So 3 or 4 of us would pack ourselves into this van. We'd be laying between motorcycles with a leg under the bottom of one. Like if we ever crashed this thing, we were dead. We were absolutely dead. So we'd pack up, we'd drive through the night, we'd get to the track, and then it was like trying to figure out what to do. So if it was sunny, or it's not sunny, if it was a clear night, we slept on the roof. If it was a little misty, we slept under it on the ground. Like we just had to figure out till the gate opened, usually at 6:30 or 7, and we'd go in. And of course, my first weekend is 28 degrees in Anniston, Alabama, at Little Talladega. But I ended up having a great race. I was a provisional novice with the pink T-shirt over my leathers, and at a different time, man. Little Talladega, 1.3 miles, 50-something second lap time, and it was a 3-wave grid on my first grid novice race, and I had to start in the back. Wow. And by Sunday's race, it was a pretty long race. I think it was 12 laps, and I ended up I actually attempted to make a pass for third overshot it. He got me back. So I ended up fourth, which was an incredible result. And everybody was so excited. And Grant was like, all right, man, like, I think you're going to do this like with me, like I'll help you, and like Grant had a good job. I was making ends meet, and he kind of had things together, and he was just like, we'll continue to help each other. You're going to have to pay something, but I'm going to go out of my way to try to make sure you really get to do this, because you're pretty good at it. This is fun. We're having a good time. And so, yeah, we did that really that first year was the main year that we got to do that. And then he got kind of picked up by John Ulrich's team the very next year. And I was kind of on my own, but we still traveled together a lot. And then that third season, I moved into the team as his teammate. So we ended up staying together, like from my first year in 94 all the way through 1999. Like the two of us were in that team, going to all the races together and doing a lot of stuff. And him and there was quite a few, there was a few guys in our crew, but it was like primarily Grant. And then we had a guy named Brian Case who kind of went to the races as a mechanic to help Grant. And then I had a friend, Matthew Burge, that we called Chewy. And like my buddy Mikey would come out to some of them. We'd all pile in the van and we'd all travel around and do all these races. And back in the hooligan days, before the cell phone had a camera on it, so a lot of good
Those
stories.
are the golden days and the stories we can't tell.
Yeah, a lot of good stories. I mean, most of them got told, but at least there was no proof, like all that stuff ended
Allegedly.
with the camera phone.
Yeah, right.
A lot of that stuff ended with the camera phone. So somehow incredibly, every year I never knew if there was going to be a next year, and every year somehow the deal just got a little bit better. After my first season, I had an incredible first season where I won the regional championship. I go to the GNF and, they have a final race in their invitational race for their sportsman series. That was, if you won the last race of the year at Road Atlanta for the GNF, you won the national championship for sportsmen. And I won 3 of those. It was about as much as you could do as a novice, and then they had their nationals or their like expert and national challenge series. And, so, at that time, there wasn't a class for novices at the National Challenge Series classes. You had to be an expert. So I moved up to expert the next year, and I just jumped right in. And I can't tell you how it happened because I don't know where the speed came from. But the day I stopped being a novice and I showed up as an expert at my very first expert race, I went a second lap faster and I ended up winning my first expert race, and against guys who it had only been a year, but these were the guys I looked up to. I remember racing against Grant and Billy Eisenacher and Patrick Ludwig and all the guys that were as well as the 5 or 6 really good novice guys that I had raced against all moved up also. And like we had great racing and all of us moved up into that expert ranks, and it really just, I don't know if a few months off and away from motorcycling, it all just kind of, the things you were learning all settled in, but they just came to fruition right from the beginning. And I was able to immediately run at an expert pace. And I remember Billy, Eisenacher being one of the first guys. It was just like, man, that was awesome to see me win. This was one of my competitors, you know what I mean? And I was just like, man, I love this sport. Like that's it right there, right? Like even the guys that you're racing against come over and they're pumped for you and to see you have some success. So that next year, I remember I won all these championships and I'm all excited. I'm going to take my same stuff and try to keep going. I got less of Grant because he's going to do his deal. And my bike broke at before the race season even started. And it blew an engine. And I'm just like, well, racing was fun, and I got so lucky. The lady I was working for in a Sea-Doo dealership, Gina Pritchard or Gina Nadeau, after she was married, I was working for her and she said, look, you seem to be doing pretty good at this. You work your butt off. I was at the shop working overtime during the weekdays so I could go away on the weekends and try to race motorcycles. And she had raced motorcycles. She was a motocrosser before, when I was a kid. So she was pretty cool about it. And she goes, I'm going to ask some people if they'll help you. And she went to some local friends and asked for some help and got me a little bit of money. And the primary guy in my motorcycle group when I was in high school was this guy we called Papa Rick. And Rick Morgan, like, he was such a cool guy. He was kind of the ride leader, and he had a storage shed that was the clubhouse that everybody brought their motorcycles and hung out in a damn storage shed, a metal storage shed with no power. And he had posters on the walls, and he would lead the rides. And, you know, he had a ZX11. He liked the big ZX11s and ZX10s. He liked big motorcycles. He was a Kawasaki guy through and through. So he was Kawasaki, I was a Honda, and everyone else in town was just about Suzuki's. So there was a lot of chirping, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Absolutely.
Well, here's a guy who was a military guy for life, leasing a truck, didn't own a house. And he comes to me and he goes, listen, I want to help. Like, I want to see you keep racing. So he purchased in 95 the brand new ZX6R. And Gina and the people who helped out, we gave him a year's worth of payments on that motorcycle. And he let me go race it for the year. And at the end of the year, I gave it back to him with some cool parts on it. And he ended up getting deployed to Sicily and went and rode it in Sicily for a couple of years. Came back, sold it, bought it back, sold it, bought it back like 8 times. The guy made more money on that motorcycle than I know what to tell you. It was like the bike that wouldn't die. But it was like one of those fantastic things where, you know, Rick and Gina and these people came through just for my second year, just so I could keep going. And unfortunately, Rick came to one race and watched me bend the frame on that bike when I crashed at Indianapolis Raceway Park. And, but yeah, you know, got through another amazing season, and then not sure what's going to happen. And then John Ulrich calls. I remember I got a call and my mom goes, you know, of course, this is when I had a house phone, right? So my mom goes, hey, Keith Perry's on the phone. And I go, yeah, whatever. That's Mikey talking trash. That's my buddy. So I grab him and go, what do you want? And he's like, is this job? I'm like, yeah, you know, and he offered me a program kind of with their team, and it was a support program, but it was like more than enough to keep me moving, you know. And I did 3 years there, and then as like fate would have it, as that team moved into full-time professional racing, I moved into the big truck at the same time. And that was my first year pro racing in 1999. And we had an incredible season. And I got an offer to move to Honda into Arian Racing, which was, I basically, Nicky Hayden was moving up to the factory team. Yep. And I was moving into his spot alongside Curtis Roberts. And I've never felt more out of place in my life. You know, I had to go to trade shows. You know, we go to Vegas for Honda's big dealer show. And there's, you know, we do an autograph line. And Curtis was next to me with this huge line because he's a Roberts. You know what I mean? And then next to him is Miguel, like across the room. You're like, seriously? And then there's Nicky, right? And he's got his little cheetah haircut. And his line went out the door and around the corner. And I can remember girls standing in line crying his name. Oh, Nicky.
Throwing panties.
Like,
bam,
oh
bam, bam.
It was unbelievable. And then people were taking my poster because they felt sorry for me because I was sitting next to all these guys.
You're like, who are you? Yeah,
exactly.
Go on, sign
and
that.
I'm older than most of them on top of that.
Right?
Not Miguel, I think. But yeah, you know, it was like so out of place, right? And then I go and get hurt at the first race at Daytona on their bike, and was having a pretty good race and get hurt, and it definitely was a big setback for me for a few years. But somehow I fought my way back. Jason Pridmore saved my career at the end of 2002 and got me on with Attack Performance when he was on Suzuki at Attack Performance for 2003.
That was Kawasaki?
No, it was before that. So I was the last guy to win a 750 championship when they had 750 Super Sport. I think they called it Super Stock at the time.
That's right.
And it was very, very important to Suzuki to win that championship because we were up against factory Kawasaki, Tommy Hayden with the 636. Yep. And dude, like the 636 was no joke. He won Daytona on that year on that bike, which what? You know?
Right.
So the first couple races were a rough start. And then the second half of the season kind of came good. And when the chips were down there at the last race, I was able to, you know, I had done most of the work up to that, and I showed up with a small points lead whenever I got there, but I'd come from pretty far down. Tommy kind of had a middle season that was kind of not so great. And I started to come good in the middle of the season. And so we showed up there, and Tommy won the last race. I got second, but it was enough to win the championship. And that was my first national championship. And at the end, it didn't work out because it didn't. Let me say, I wanted to stay with my team that had just helped me win my first championship, but they changed manufacturers and left Suzuki and went to Kawasaki. So the options that I had, what I wanted to do, I really wanted to stick with this team. So I ended up going to Kawasaki and doing we basically did a support team superbike before the factory team did it. So I got to do my 2 years there. I don't know that I was the popular guy there because I was a little older, and we had our share of problems, but we got some decent results. Got on a wet podium on that motorcycle at Road America, and we would mix in the factory superbikes from time to time, and like it was pretty special. I once in a while when Eric Bostrom was on the factory Ducati on Michelin's, anytime I got really close to him, which was a few times, Dunlop would float me some special tires to make sure I could go get him, which was nice. So I got to taste those a little bit, but I didn't get them week in and week out, right? I wasn't in
like, we got something special for you, Josh. Yep. Try these out.
Yep. I wasn't in that club yet, and but I knew how the game worked, right? So you just go, and that was like the goal. And then a couple of times I got in there and mixed it up and got in front of a few of those factory guys, and that was a huge win for us, just to be able to beat a factory bike when we could do it, And it was a pretty big gulf between the factory bikes and the rest of the field. And I, at different times I was different distances in that gap, but once in a while I could get in there and beat up on those guys a little bit, and that was pretty special. I led a regular dry race. I led a lap at Brainerd. I was really fast at Brainerd. It was just hard to maintain the lap time, but I ended up like making a pass and getting to the front and leading a lap of a superbike race at Brainerd, and some pretty special stuff. And then I got a call and returned back to Arian Racing in 2006, where I managed to win 2 FX championships, and got a call from Yamaha. Like I was down and out. I had nothing. I was in Portugal trying to figure something out. World Super Sport, the World Championship was desperate for an American. And while I was there, the word came out that Ben Spies had signed a Racing World Superbike, and all my opportunities dried up instantly. We don't need an American anymore. We got one. So I had nothing. I'm sitting in Portugal.
You call Ben, you're like, dude, what are you doing, man?
Yeah. I'm sitting in Portugal and I have nothing. And I remember Gina, the lady who helped me in the beginning, she was my manager, and she called me and she goes, got a call from Keith McCarty. He offered you a Yamaha Superbike. I said, I'll take it. She goes, do you want to know the money? I go, does it matter? I want it. It's a super bike. It's a factory super bike. I want it. Yes, I'll take it. And it was a little bit of a rough start, but we managed to get things on the right track pretty quickly. First 3 or 4 races were pretty much a nightmare. And then we kind of got onto a roll. It took a few races. And then by the end of the season, I was really starting to put things together well, and it led into being the guy who couldn't get a ride to within one season. I was somewhat the favorite for the championship in 2010, and thankfully I came good on it. 2011, really difficult season. It was the coming of Blake Young, and
he was fast too.
Yeah, he was riding incredible. He was doing all the things he needed to do. And one thing that they did was, at that time, the way the system was done, there was a few things in place that really helped me. You got an extra point for pole, and to encourage racing, they gave you a point in the championship for leading the most laps of a race to encourage good racing. And over the course of the season, I ended up getting more than 25 of those points over the course of the season. So, I had a full race worth of points, of extra points that I had managed to gain. And when we rolled into the last race of the year, I was a few points down. It wasn't bad. I was close, but it was a few points down. And unfortunately, I think the pressure got to Blake a little bit. And I kind of felt like I was in a point of freedom. I had already won a championship. I had a 2-year deal. I was in the middle of a 2-year deal. Even if I lost it, I had won a championship. I was a Superbike champ. I had done it, and I was going to get another chance. So I felt very free. I didn't feel those pressures. Blake had not won a championship in one of the earlier, in the smaller classes in Super Sport or Stock 1000. He hadn't won a championship before, and here he is, all the pressure in the world up for his first Superbike championship with a lot of money and a lot of pressure behind him. I mean, Yoshimura was so dominant for so many years, and they wanted to get back on top. So there was a lot of pressure there, and he had a really tough Saturday and really had a bad result. And then I had kind of steamrolled it. And when we got into Sunday, and kind of somewhat all was lost, and he had nothing to lose. In the first start, I'd kind of gotten out and gotten a bit of a gap, and then we had a red flag. And on the red flag, Blake came to life. He ends up winning the race. He finished 8th or something the day before. And I remember when we started the last lap, I can't remember. I was like 6th or 7th. It was more than enough to lose the championship. And I ended up getting to the finish line in 2nd on the last lap. It was a pretty incredible lap, right? So I pulled off a miracle to win in 2011. In 2012, we had a decent start. And then we got to Atlanta, and Blake, my big rival, and I, we ended up getting together under the bridge at Road Atlanta, and Blake had a pretty bad fall. I was upset about it. I was glad that he was okay. He wasn't too charitable about me coming over to check on him, but I was concerned about his well-being. So I was over there trying to check on him. And I remember Jim Roach, my crew chief, grabbing me and going, listen, we had to go back out to ride. And Jim knows me. And he was just like, he's okay, and you don't owe him anything. So you better go out there and race your best. And man, Blake had an incredible race. It was a hero race. So he comes back. He and I battle the whole race, and he wins the race, right? But from that point forward, I ended up basically running the season. I had an incredible season. Like, I was at the top of my game. Things were going well, 2013, good season. I actually won a lot of races. It was a famous year for how many jump starts I got, I think. But yeah. I still had an incredible season. I won a lot of races. But my teammate Josh Herron wins the championship. It was still a win for the team, and it was what helped him go off and get to try Moto 2. And yep. So, and they immediately moved in Cam Beaubier. And I definitely felt something when Cam showed up. He was just different. I had a lot of respect for what he could do. I'd watched him ride quite a bit. And for such a nerdy little dude, he sure got it done on the racetrack, And I remember he never messed around. He got right to it, got on the Superbike, and he was fast. And definitely my experience carried me through in 2014 with a shortened championship to win the championship. He won races, heads up. And I remember we went to Sonoma we had an extra series. We had the Moto America series, which is very limited to a 7-race series. And then John Ulrich started a second little championship of 3 races called Superbike Shootout. And I remember going to Sonoma for that Superbike Shootout, and Cameron, this was a good racetrack for me. He clobbered me. He was 1.5 seconds a lap faster than me. I couldn't touch him and couldn't even look at his data and understand why. And so I managed to pull off that championship, both of those little championships. He had a tip over. I remember his first one when he won at Sonoma. He won his first Superbike race. He was showing off on the cool down lap and kicked her out sideways and flipped himself off the bike and crashed on the site on the cool down lap. And I remember going to the podium, and I was just like, I grabbed him. I go, bro, that takes balls, man. That's awesome. I'm like, high fiving. I'm like, bro, there's no better way to show your team how thankful you are than smashing their Superbike. You're in rare air there, like you and Aaron Yates and like a few others, which embarrassed him to no end. It was fantastic. And so we get through 2014, and then we get this new bike in 2015, and he and I went tit for tat, and won all the races. We ran the series, you know, that season on that new motorcycle. And I'll say that the new bike kind of suited him a little more than it did me, but I still had a lot of fight in me, and I managed to win. I think I like to tease him because he won the championship, but I won 10 and he won 8 races that season. So I'll never let him forget that. But then we rolled into 2016, and again, you know, Cameron had a phenomenal year. I won less races, and that was the arrival of Tony Elias also. So, and then 2017 was a bit of a nightmare for me. Keith McCarty had told me my future, that it was coming to an end. I wasn't ready for it, and I was a little depressed. I had some home things going on. My dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and I took that harder. I can see in hindsight, I took it a little harder than I understood at the time. And I would get all nostalgic about all the work I needed to do, and I knew how to do to be ready, but I wouldn't do the work, and I'd show up and try to force it to happen. And in 2017, I had a really difficult season. I smashed more motorcycles. I burned 3 to the ground that year, and just trying to force it to happen. And ended up being probably the worst year I'd had in a while. I like to blame it. I got down to a 7 handicap in golf, so it probably had something to do with that. And but yeah,
that's not Tiger Woods, right?
No, no, it is not. And but yeah, that was where it all kind of ended. I didn't get to touch a bike in 2018. I was just a mentor and coach to a lot of guys.
How different of a transition was that for you?
Man, it was so many things. Melissa was pregnant my whole 2017 season, and nobody even picked up on it. She wore sweatshirts for an entire year, and nobody even picked up on it. And I think at Barber, it was like 80 degrees in October, September, and she couldn't take it. She took her sweatshirt off, and she was, 7.5, 8 months pregnant. And everybody was looking at her like, what? And it's like, I remember she looked at her film. She's like, what? I like beer.
Miller Lite, baby.
You calling me fat, like it was so funny. But so I came out of racing, got dunked right into fatherhood. And I remember that one memorable thing was I had this group of guys. I had Hayden Gillum, JD Beach, Jake Lewis, Bobby Fong, Garrett Gerloff, Peterson. I had all these guys here in January, and my little boy is a month and a half old. And every day we would go out and either pedal our bike for 3 hours or go to the motocross track. I was training a ton with no sleep. And Melissa and I were struggling, trying to keep going and live this way. And like I gained 12 pounds, and I was still doing all this training, right? So in 19, we got to dabble with some stuff. Pridmore convinced me to go do some classic bike racing. I went over to Australia and rode in that in 2019 and 2020. Ton of fun. What a fantastic experience that was. Way better than I ever would have believed it was. And I'll get to why. But I also got to dabble. I got to do the Daytona 200 on our own bike in 2019, where we got 4th. Yep. Melissa and I showed up in 2020 at Daytona. COVID cancels it. I'm on pole. COVID cancels it. Right? Like we were ready to go. You're
like, what do you mean we're going home? Yeah. What?
Yeah, we do qualifying. They send us home. So we drive back and we're totally lost. And I ended up riding 2019. I ended up riding that same bike quite a few races during the year. I think I rode 6 races or something. Got on the podium at Virginia. Got to hold Hawk on the podium. It was a pretty special event. 2020. Didn't get to do anything after that early. I went and did the classic bike race again in Australia, which I was saying was such an incredible experience. I had only been around really the business end of racing for a long time, where people are trying to get paid, and people are about making money, and teams like riders, everybody's trying to survive and make a living in it. And when I went to that classic bike race, it was the first time that there wasn't a single person there making money. This is 100% about people spending their money for the passion of motorcycle racing. And the competition.
The grassroots of racing, baby.
Oh, man.
Let's go.
The competition was so good. Yes. I ended up winning some of these races, which, was an international deal, like a match race. The U.S. against Australia, against New Zealand, against England, against, and when I won some of these things, and I remember coming back and pulling into my pit box, and the captain of the Australian team and the New Zealand team are standing there waiting for me to hug me, high five me, say, please come back. This was awesome. We love having you here. You know, like, it was incredible. It was such an experience, right? And then in 2020, Melissa actually came and rode also. She rode our buddy Dave's TZ 750, the old Widowmaker, which promptly threw her over the top in the fastest part of the track, Hayshed, at Phillip Island. So, but we got to take Hawk and go see Australia too. So it was amazing. I ended up making some friends there. I had this guy, Mark Brax, who's one of the announcers at the racetrack. Peter Doyle, who had been Matt Mladen's crew chief here, was running the Australian series. And there was a group of guys called Addicted to Tracks. They are currently racing in Superbike and on the podium regularly with Anthony West. Mark Brax put this deal together and was like, hey, you want to come back and race Australian Superbike alongside the World Superbike weekend? And I'm like, heck yeah. So we ended up putting this deal together, and I got to go out and participate in an Australian Superbike race. And, I mean, I was still pretty green. I hadn't ridden much in a couple of years, but definitely enjoyed it. I met some amazing people. I got to be there for Garrett Garloff's first World Superbike weekend, who I had coached Garrett the year before, right? And so it was fun to be there and get to see him, you know, in his first dabble into it. And that was pretty much it. From there, it was like COVID year. So I was coaching a lot of guys. We weren't sure when we were going back to the track, and then things kind of get back to normal. We were one of the first to go back racing, right? Yeah. So went to Road America a couple of times and spent most of my time. I was working with, Cam Peterson, Bobby Fong, you know, had quite a few guys there. I worked with the Westby team for a couple of years. 21, kind of nothing really happened in 21. 22, I got to dabble again. I got to do the Daytona 200. And then I got to do a couple of super sport races with the group I had done, with the Squid Hunter guys I had done Daytona with. And we went to New Jersey. I went to Virginia and New Jersey, and I won races in both of them. And here I was, like, now I'm, late 40s, 48 years old. And I go and I win a few more nationals, and it's like, holy smokes, you know what I mean? And I don't even know if I'm gonna get to do it again, but I'm leaving going, well, at least I won the last national I raced, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And then we did Daytona again, and the guys said, okay, we'll dabble in a few more, and pretty quickly it turned into the 2023 season, where I got to get going again and won a couple races again and managed to get the all-time win record, which I never could have believed would ever fall with my name near it, and then that was 2023. 2024, didn't touch a motorcycle, and just right back to coaching. And then I was actually coaching a few guys and that were riding with Bryce Prince, and I got together and did some stuff. And Bryce and I knew each other from racing for years. And BP said, hey man, you want to go racing? And I go, man, I don't know if I can afford to do it. And but let me just make a few calls. So I called some friends, people that I coach regularly, kind of an older group of guys that are always just been really nice to me. And I go, listen, I've got this opportunity, but I can't race and coach at the same time. Like, I'm not doing anybody justice when I'm doing that, because I'm just running away from a motorcycle to do this, or I'm running away from this to take care of my motorcycle, and I can't do both well. So I'd rather not do that. So I got to pick one. This is how much money I make coaching. If I can make that much money and go racing, I'll go racing. And those guys offered to help me. So, I got some guys to support me. And so I got to do another season of racing in 2025. Started off pretty special. The R9 has been a difficult transition for me, but we're learning. We're a pretty young fledgling team, and all the people in it. And I have experience. I've ridden a lot of things, and my job as a racer was always to test things and then go, yeah, I like that, or no, I don't. And here's why. Here's this, that, and the other thing. But the actual act of coming up with what those things are that you try and things like that was never my job. I had experts for that. And this year, that kind of fell in the lap of me and some other guys that just don't have the experience of doing that. And we had to go through and learn it a bit the hard way. Everything from the electronics on the motorcycle to suspension theory to, now that they made the chassis more complicated with clamps and, clamps, cups and linkages, it just kind of added a whole level of complexity to them. And so I managed in the rain on the weekend of my 50th birthday to win one more race. And then it's been a bit of a struggle, but starting about Virginia, we found a little something that started us in the right direction. And I still love this stuff very, very much. And, Bryce and I are talking about it, and it's not 100% done, but we'll see. 2026 is looking promising. So it's just weird because I'm like, for the series regulars, the guys doing the whole series, I'm going to be 51, and like the next oldest guy might be 35. So, but still got some fight in me.
Listen, there's quite often I look in the mirror, Josh, and I say, how did I get here? Right. And I'm sure it's the same with you. Sometimes you look in the mirror and you're like, how did I get here?
So I'm laughing because you asked for my story, and I looked up and it says we've been live for 46 minutes of your 45 minutes podcast. Sorry.
No, dude, you're good, man. If it's okay with you, we can keep talking.
No,
if you got some
we're
time.
good.
Yeah,
we're good.
So, in that, and I wanted to touch base on, of course, the MotoGP adventure you had, which was absolutely amazing. 2011 Tech 3, you actually, from my memory off the top of my head, you topped a practice session.
I
hope you still have whatever. You still top of the sheet, which
what an incredible bit of luck for the whole weekend. Everything about it, right? And honestly, it was like a little ray of sunlight on what was otherwise a relatively tragic event. The whole reason I got the opportunity to race. I was supposed to just test the thing on the Tuesday after, and the incident with Marco Simoncelli happened where he got killed, and Colin had gotten hurt in that incident, and so he couldn't race. And I just got the call and said, "Hey, if you can get leathers done, you're racing this thing." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?" What? And then you show up there, and it absolutely pisses rain. I've never seen the track. I've never sat on a GP bike. I've never seen Bridgestone tires before. I have no idea what I'm getting into, right? And they're riding them as good as you could possibly ride them. They're at the end of this is the last ever race of the 800s, which were known to be violent, as were the Bridgestones, unforgiving, right? And
talking about being out of place, right?
Oh my God. And it kept steamrolling, I get there, I meet all the guys, everybody's great. And if you've got time, I'll kind of tell you the story of my weekend. Right?
Yeah.
So Friday morning, you wake up, and I mean, it is dumping, and it didn't stop dumping for the entire day. I've sat on this bike and adjusted the levers. That's what I've done, right? They fire the thing up. It's getting ready to go. And in our paddock, maybe we have 5 or 6 photographers running around. When the door opened up for me to get on the motorcycle and go out and ride, there must have been 40 photographers waiting to get a picture of me getting on this motorcycle. And damn it, I had to have a clear shield on my helmet. It was like the worst case scenario. And I'm looking out there, it's just rain dumping on the track. Everybody's telling me how terrible this track is for grip, And Cal was trying to be a pal. He was going to lead me around for a lap, but he was in my way on the first lap. Just went around him, kind of went on, did my thing. So I'm out riding around. I've got so much to learn, right? And I'm just riding. I'm not doing too bad. I think I was, for a good portion of the session, I'm in the top 10, And I'm just riding. I'm learning my way around and figuring out how's this feel, how's that feel. And I'm just trying stuff. And I go, shit, I should probably go in the pit at some point, And I looked up and there was like 4 minutes left on the clock. This was a 60-minute session. So I just finished the session. I rode to the checkered flag. I come in and Hervé Ponchal goes, in all my years, I've never seen anything like, you didn't come in. I go, what was I going to come in for? I don't even know what to ask for. I got to go figure some stuff out. And he's just like, I've never seen anything like it. I'm like, okay.
I'm glad we put extra fuel in that thing.
Yeah. So I go out, and the afternoon goes kind of okay too. Saturday morning, wet again. Saturday qualifying, hour session. Sun is beaming. The track is mint. I've never touched a Bridgestone slick. I've never ridden on a carbon brakes, and it's qualifying for an hour, right? So here's a race tire, go, and at the end we're going to give you a faster tire. I'm like, great. Right? So
I'm all in. Let's go.
I'm just riding around, and I'm a train wreck. Like,
Nope.
I'm terrible. I mean, terrible. I cannot figure anything out about this
You
bike.
feel like a
right?
rookie. You're like, what am I doing?
Absolutely. So, like, you go up the front straightaway, and turn one was a third gear turn, and you'd hold that to turn two, backshift to second, if I remember correctly. So, I couldn't get the throttle wide open between turn 1 and 2 on that straightaway to save my life. And I think I have a better idea of why now, learning a bit about the motorcycles. And it was just the departure of riding my super bike to go into the GP bike and my feelings about how things were. The GP bike didn't turn that well to me compared to my super bike. You're different. They have incredible grip and they have incredible lean angle. But as far as just like their ability to change direction, it wasn't as good as a super bike to me. And it really probably, like I've learned over time, it needed an exaggerated riding style, which is why you see the super wide seats and how far these guys hang off the motorcycle. It's required on a prototype chassis to get the bike to a low bike that doesn't transfer weight very much to get it to do that, right? You have to exaggerate your style. That's very far from me, right? And I'm just trying to figure it out the best I can for the hour that I'm going to get to figure this thing out, right? So I'm cruising around, I'm doing my thing, and I remember I was filling in for Colin. Nakasuga was the test rider for Yamaha, was filling in for Jorge Lorenzo, who was out at the time, and so Nakasuga used me in qualifying as a tow and pipped me to put me last on the grid, right? I was kind of thankful later because I didn't know what I was getting into. And I did do a practice start, right? So I stop and I go through my usual routine and do my practice start. And when I got to the first brake zone after my practice start, I had no brakes because the carbon brakes have to get hot before they work. And so I was terrified on the start of the race. And then everything was so loud with the new loud pipes on those things that on the start of the race, I couldn't hear my bike anyway. So I had no idea how to even launch the thing. So it was a nightmare. But I managed to, we go out in the morning, warm up, track's wet but drying. And we're all on rain tires. So I'm out riding around. I'm doing okay. But there gets to be a line. I'm telling you, it couldn't have been more than 8 inches wide around the racetrack that was completely dry. And everybody's tires are pretty shot. There's a few minutes left in the session, and I rolled in, and I looked at the guys, and I go, can I ride that slick tire bike? And they looked at me like I had a horn growing out of my head. They're like, for what? I go, man, I have no idea what the conditions are going to be like this afternoon, and just if I can learn something. And they go, great. So they start firing this thing up, and they're like, this dude's going to this is all it took. Now this guy's going to go kill this motorcycle, right? So I go out, and I like at home, I was always the one that went out in tricky conditions like that and tried to figure it out. And so I go out, I get 2 laps, and I ended up leading the morning warm up. So I have a sheet where I led a session in MotoGP. There are guys who do a career that don't get to do that, right? So I come into the pits, and the team is just dying laughing, right? And Crutchlow was my teammate, Cal, and dude, Cal I couldn't have asked for a better guy. He was laughing so hard. He came over and got on his knees and was, doing this in the pit and stuff. It was absolutely fantastic. It was so funny. So as soon as that was done, they had like 5 minutes, and then every bike there, Moto 3, Moto 2, MotoGP, everybody went out and did a lap for Simoncelli. Came back, got on the front straightaway. They did a big ceremony and, had everybody there with pictures and all that kind of stuff. And it was pretty funny because I'm standing out there and, again, I'm so out of place, right? And Nikki and a few guys, Valentino, all come over and they go, hey, how's the track? They're all asking
like,
me.
what?
I'm like, you told me this place was shit. You know what I mean? Like this, I haven't ridden a track in my life in the wet that had one surface. This is amazing. I don't know what your problems are. So, and then we get out and start the race, and I get through, the first turn, and there was a lot of things happen in the race, right? So it starts in the dry. Bautista takes out Nicky and Valentino in the first turn, and then we get going, and I'm battling with Nakasuga. Like he and I are going back and forth, doing our thing, and then the rain starts to come. And Nakasuga has more laps than even those GP racers. Like he's the tester back in Japan. He rides an M1 however many days a week on these tires, all that stuff. So when it started raining, he started to slip away. He kind of was getting away from me. And then guys just started coming back to me. There's guys falling down too, but like Caparossi, Tony, all these guys start coming back, and I'm just like, okay, and yeah, and I ended up not getting lapped and finishing 7th. So it was a pretty incredible event, right? And I remember I saw Hervé afterwards, and I go, Hervé, like, man, come on, man, like, tell me, what do I have to do? What do you need from me? And he just laughed at me. He goes, I'm so sorry. He goes, you were the right rider at the wrong time. There's no way that Yamaha will take a 36-year-old rookie GP racing. It'll never happen. They're just like, so I was fortunate I got the experience. I asked Keith McCarty, or I was signing a contract with Keith McCarty, and I remember saying, like, I'm so thankful for this contract, but there's a piece of me that's sad because when I'm done, I'm going to be in my late 30s, and I'll never get an opportunity. I'll never get to ride a MotoGP bike, the highest level of technology, and I will have been a career motorcycle racer, like I won't get to experience that technology. I won't get to race in the World Superbike Championship. Like I won't get to do these things, but I'm thankful to have this. I don't want you to think I'm not thankful. It was just a very human conversation with Keith and I. And on his own, without provocation, he went and figured out how to make something happen special for me so that I would get to test this motorcycle, and it turned into a race. So it was a lot of really special things. Hervé even put things into perspective for me. He goes, listen, Carlos Checo raced in the GP championship for a decade. And then he went to World Superbike, and he wins a World Superbike championship. And as a gift, they let him come race a Ducati at the final race of the year, and he got lapped. Like, you did incredible. Like, it was a pretty amazing event. And I would agree. For me, it was. And it's actually part of what I think helped steamroll things, just getting to see things a different way. I rolled into 2012, and, I had such a stellar season. Maybe that GP event had something to do with that,
I love it, man. Again, legend status, man. You, Josh, is absolutely amazing. As a matter of fact, didn't Melissa get to test the Moto2 bike too?
So Melissa came with me, and she had worked on Hervé, and she had told Hervé, hey, I want to ride the Moto2 bike. And he was like, no,
Not a chance.
You're going to ride the GP bike.
Yes.
And she's like, no, I don't want to ride that. I want to ride the Moto2 bike. And he was like, yeah, no, you're going to ride the GP bike. So what was special about Melissa getting to do this, was, so what had happened was on the Tuesday after, this was the last ever race of the 800s. They were moving to the 1000s. And so what Yamaha did was they had the 800s, and they could just bolt the 1000 directly into that chassis. So the team that I was riding, and Colin's side of the team, Andrea Dovizioso was leaving Repsol Honda and coming to that team. So he was going to move directly into there, and he kept one bike as an 800, so he could go 800 to 800 from the Honda to the Yamaha, and then the second day he would move over to the 1000. Cal had been racing the 800, so he was just going straight to the 1000 on the first day, and they took his 800 and prepped it for Melissa. And so what was really special was most people who ever got to try, Elena Myers got to try Suzuki, I think 800 GP bike at Indy. I think they gave her 4 laps or something. But my understanding is They gave her damn near qualifying tires. She had steel brakes, you know, stuff like that. And when Melissa went out, she got my race setup, basically. Here's race tires, carbon brakes. You're going to ride a GP bike, and we'll bring you in after 12 laps or something like that. And you get to go out twice. So she's like getting to go out for 2 12-lap runs on a GP bike on race tires and carbon brakes and get the real experience, you know. Of course, she woke up and it was a damp track. It was kind of dry with some wet spots. She had never seen the racetrack before, you know, and she's rolling out on a GP bike. And Cal and I had been kind of ribbing her a little bit and poking at her. So it's funny. Cal and I go and we're leaning, sticking her head out the fence in the wall to watch her come up the front straightaway on the very first lap. And when she popped onto the front straightaway, she absolutely disappeared behind the windscreen and went by absolutely full stick up the front straightaway. I think her first flying lap through, her trap speeds were faster than mine were the entire weekend.
And you're like, incredible. What?
Yeah,
dude. I love it.
And it was amazing. And it was funny because when she was like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. I go, what are you nervous for? She goes, I don't want to crash it. I go, listen, I'm just going to be honest with you, Melissa. This bike's going to go to a museum or the crusher when this is done. And quite honestly, they're never going to let you ride one again anyway. Go have fun.
Let's go.
You know, take some pressure off. Go get them. I was like, when they wave you in, keep going.
Keep going. Let it run out of gas, right? Yeah. Steal the photographer's scooter. Make it back.
They're never going to let you ride one again anyway. Go get the most out of it, right? So, yeah, for both of us, it was just like, we've gotten to do some incredible things. We got to go up in F-16s together.
I know.
You know what I mean? And fighter jets. It was like, who gets to do this stuff? We're living a pretty blessed life, man.
Absolutely. Hey, can you hang on? I actually locked the door. My wife's out there. She just texted me, said, you locked the bottom lock. I can't get in. So give me 1 second. I'll be back in one second.
I guess your boy's asleep then?
Yes. Thank God. I'll be ready to find out. So I'll let you know. Otherwise, I'm going to be in trouble.
You better run. That's pretty funny, huh? He told me before this started, he told his boy he better be asleep whenever his mom gets home, or else he's going to get in trouble. So, see if anybody gets yelled at. Oh, he's running back.
Hilarious.
That doesn't happen every time, does it?
No, it don't. My wife went to the concert, and usually we don't never lock the bottom lock. We got the code for, you know, the little code key, whatever. And for some reason, I just locked the bottom lock, you know, and then my wife texts me and she's like, yeah, I was just watching it live. I just left a comment, let me in. That's hilarious.
Nice.
Oh my God. Yeah. Right here. Look, let me in. I love it. I love it, man. Dude, Josh, you've had an amazing career again, dude. You're an absolute legend. I keep saying that, you know, and I said this before we went live. You are special. You are the ambassador. And I told you this at Mid Ohio. People ask me all the time, why do I personally think like you and Jeremy McWilliams still keep giving it your all and showing up and doing what you do? Is because you're simply still in love with the sport. And it's very unique. Not only that, what you give back to the sport with helping like people like Riston Grigg and just everybody, you know, that love you give back, and it's very special.
I'm a good example though.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Like I realize that I'm the one with the problem.
We all got that problem.
I'm sacrificing a lot of things I probably shouldn't because I like racing motorcycles.
Yeah, I mean, this is such as the juggle of life, my friend.
And like I don't know how to turn it off. You know, this is a problem I have. I have quite a few guys that I coach, and it's really difficult. I have a hard time because it's easy when I'm working with like-minded people. Working with Bobby Fong's easy because he thinks very, very much like I do. And it's like when I get these guys that are moving up through the ranks, right? And they want to get to this level and they want to make things happen. And they go, when you crash or whatever, how do you bounce back? You know? And I go, well, that's pretty easy. Falling down and breaking my leg hurts way worse than losing to you. Like I'll take a broken leg. That ain't so bad. Losing to you, that hurts. That's going to go down the drain with me. Like,
Right. And I can't let that happen.
yeah. So like I realize I'm the one with the problem.
I love the problem.
This happened a long time ago. Like I have a very good friend. I don't know if you know Opie Kaler.
Yep.
Opie got an opportunity to do something, and when it came time to do it, I really didn't feel like he rode to his potential. And at the end of the weekend, I go, "Hey man, what's going on? Like, tell me. Like, I've seen you race a lot. We spent a lot of time on the road together doing this stuff, and that just wasn't your best stuff. And I don't understand what happened." And he goes, "Man, I got to be honest. In 2 weeks, I'm gonna marry the girl of my dreams, and I don't want to mess up that day for her." And he was ashamed. I had to drag it out of him. You know what I mean? And I go, "Man,
Yeah.
that might be one of the most noble, well thought out things I've ever heard. All I'm saying is you shouldn't feel guilty for that, but it does put you at like let's say, an evolutionary disadvantage against a guy like me because it never would have occurred to me. I'm so caught up in my little world, right?" And so it helped me get with some perspective that, like I said, I'm the one with the problem. Maybe I'm the one who will go too far. I'll sacrifice too much because I love the competition, and I love I like the battle of the wills. I'm willing to go further than you, willing to try harder. I'm willing to risk more. It's a calculated risk, but
Yep.
it's still, I don't know that it's so admirable in every way sometimes.
You make a good point. Never thought of it in that spectrum or light, but yeah, you do make a good point, Josh.
I mean, here I am with young children, and I'm 51 years old next year, and I still want to go racing at a high level, and I don't like losing. I'm not afraid to fall down. Like I try to wear the best equipment money can buy.
Yep.
I believe in my equipment. There's a reason
Yep.
that I've been in Tai Chi, TCX and Arai helmets for over a decade.
The Jolly Rancher. Yeah, baby.
I'm Jolly Roger, not exactly a Jolly Rancher.
I was hoping you was going to catch that.
But I believe in the products. I believe in them,
Yeah.
and so they give me longevity.
Absolutely true. I want to get to a couple of these comments. Actually, we got a lot of comments up in here, but we got Danny Hull says, "What's up, Josh?
Mr. Danny.
Miss talking with you."
Yeah, Danny's I remember Danny from a long time ago at Honda, and it's been good because he's shown up at Laguna Seca a couple times in the last couple of years. It's always good to bump into Danny, and I'm glad that he still has. There's so many guys that don't still have the passion to even show up and see what it's all about. So it's always great to see a familiar face, and Danny's always smiling and happy to be there.
I love it. Yeah, Danny. I'm actually getting Danny on the podcast coming up soon, so
he'll be good. He's got a lot of good old stories.
Yeah, me and him's been chatty
the glory days.
The glory. Listen, and that's something I wanted to ask you. Obviously times have changed. Back in the day, there's a lot of money in the sport. Now there's, not a whole lot going around. The times have definitely changed. Moto America is making an uproot long from the DMDJs, right? So we're getting back to there. What's your thoughts on the future of the sport? I personally think that Superbike's going to eventually go away, and Supersport's going to be the main class of Moto America.
I feel like the writing's on the wall that there is a time that what's now next gen Supersport will become Superbike, mostly because for a long time the 1000s, the big bikes were they're the flagship motorcycles of each manufacturer, but the fact that in Supersport they've managed to now, it's almost like the conspiracy theory of government. They've trained us to be okay with a control ECU parity where they can performance balance. They actually are managing to do with next gen Supersport and performance balancing what DMG tried to do. Like that was the whole idea of DMG, was to try to do this. And now the technology is available to actually make it happen. But the fact that we have nearly every manufacturer involved, I mean, it's hard not to look at it and think it's a matter of time before this comes to be, because these are also the motorcycles that more consumers are purchasing because they cost less. honestly. And we will never, in the history, we have never been able to get all the manufacturers, both in Europe and Japan, and now China, to agree on, hey, everybody's going to build this CC motorcycle. They all have their own marketing schemes and plans, and it just doesn't work that way. And so, in the format that we're running now, everybody can build a bike that fits in the class with some modification or being brought down to spec, so that we have bikes across the board racing at a fairly competitive level.
Yeah, I agree. I'd hate to be the guy that makes all the rules for the super sport and the super hooligan class, right? There'd be a headache going on there. And then we got Chuck Folkhorror. He says, yeah, Moldy Biscuit stories.
Yeah, Chuck got to see a lot of that stuff. So Chuck was one of the guys that used to sneak us into the bars in high school. So I met him when I was 18 years old, before I ever raced. And he used to sneak us into the bars. And I remember him putting some big girls on the back of his motorcycles. And one of the best ones, we went for we did a 500-mile road ride one time, and he had a girl on the back, and his shit. He had an old GSXR 750 with an 1100 motor stuffed into the aluminum frame 750, and so the shock hose was all wound around and zip tied, and he ended up rubbing through it with the back tire, and it blew the shock. So he was just riding on a spring with this big girl on the back for like 150 miles to get back home. And another time, I think he was riding a dual sport on some windy road we had in North Mississippi, Central Mississippi, and he ran off the road and through a ditch and jumped a thing and all kinds of stuff. And survived and made it home.
I love it, man.
Yeah, he was and then like he would start showing up at races, and he became kind of the party coordinator after the races, but I ended up doing a couple World Super Sport races in '08. And I remember I land in Rome, we drive to the track, and I'm going through the gate into Vallelunga Raceway on the south side of Rome. And I pull up, and Chuck is standing at the gate. And I'm like,
and you're like, what
the hell are you doing here? He goes, I came to watch. Can you get me a pass? Can you get me he's like, you think you can get me like a media pass so I can come in? I go, how did you get here? He goes, well, I landed at the Rome airport and I bought this bicycle off of somebody and rode it to the gate. I'm like, I am 90% sure I'm accurate on that story. So he can probably confirm it, but he was like, he either stole somebody's bicycle or bought it from him and went to the racetrack. Then it was like probably 30 or 40 miles away from the airport. He's a nut.
I love it. Oh my God. Great stories, but he said he actually invited Grant to the podcast. I haven't seen him pop up. So
yeah, Grant's I got him. I when we raced in New Orleans in 2012, I got Grant tickets, and he came out, and I didn't even know he actually showed up, but he was leaving, and I was walking from the press room back to the team, and I bumped into him. So I got him passes. He came out I saw him for a few seconds. And then about 3 years ago, I was at Hunter Dunham's house in South Georgia, and I drove down to Milton, Florida to a motocross track. And I called Grant. I go, hey man, you want to come ride some dirt bikes? And he was like, yeah. And he showed up on a 2003 RM 250. We spent the day banging around in the dirt and talking about life, and he kind of told me about his story, Grant's big story with the guy who was a shooter on the military base, and Grant was the guy that brought that guy down. Like, this dude's like a hero now, right? And he teaches all of the sheriff's department, the motorcade guys. Yep. So he teaches all the motor guys on the motorcycles for that, and he was telling me his little girls are sailing, they're racing sailboats, so he's staying busy.
Yeah, absolutely. It happens when you have kids. You always stay busy, as we both know. Mark B. Jones says, hi, Josh. Mark from Mobile. The stories we could all tell about Lopez. LOL.
Yeah, yeah. I have quite a few, over the years. And not even just him. I remember Brian Case. I went to hang out with those guys. I did one street ride with those guys right when I started racing. I took my street bike over there, and I remember, they were like the hooligan clan running around Mobile, and we went to this place that had, you get up on those big clover leaves. That was the most coolest thing we had. There was no real twisty roads in South Mississippi or South Alabama, so I remember going to the clover leaves off the Interstate 10 and one of the other ones in Mobile, and we're just doing loops. It's just a big right-hander. You're just doing 4 loops and forever. And I ran out of gas because the petcock was on the left. And I leaned over, finally ran out of gas on the side of the highway. Yeah.
Love stories, man. It's we all been there. I remember my first Ducati I had, I ran out of gas and I called my wife. I was like, I need you to come bring me gas. She's like, where you at? I was like, an hour and 45 minutes away on the side of a mountain. I'm gonna drop my point. I need fuel. She's like, sometimes I hate you. Yeah.
Jerk.
But I love you, right? Yeah,
right.
let's go. She's like, I told you not to buy that thing. I was like, but I love her.
You ever get it? You'll do. I guess you'll do.
Yeah, right. Yeah, she'll be fine. We're in this together. We'll figure it out, right? And then we got Aiden Sneed. What is up, Aiden? He says, any rock band recently?
Yeah, I have not managed to go down the stairs for any rock band in a while. So there was a time Aiden's been over here playing on that thing. I lost all the controllers. That's the only thing we had left was the drum set. And so I'd drum away on Rock Band. I think I may have one guitar left, but none of the actual regular controllers, and it's an old Xbox. But when we moved here to Southern California, Chaz Davies lived with Melissa and I here for a while. And then Matt Lynn came out and, spent months with us. And so we had a couple of bands on Rock Band, and we basically rocked the whole world. I was a drummer. Chaz was guitar, Mel was bass, and Matt was our singer. I'm trying to remember. I Hate Shaky Tables was one of our bands, and the other one was Twisted Testes and the Heinous Anus. I think that was our other one.
I love it, dude. I love it.
So, but yeah, we rocked it. We rocked it. I was a drummer.
Man. Yeah, I love the Rock Band. I used to love playing the Wii. I've broken a lot of shit doing that for sure. That don't mix great with alcohol and a bunch of men. I'll tell you that right now.
I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah, absolutely right. Brian Stokes, another old school legend up in it. Yeah, he said ask him about hitting a bird at Brainerd.
Yeah, that happened too. That was 2003. I always really liked Brainerd. And I remember I was battling with Steve Rapp and Vincent Haskavec.
Yep.
And we come into turn 2, which was 4th gear, I think, but pretty like right at the top of 4th gear. And I remember right as we tipped into turn 2 and we were getting close to the grass, I saw this little flash puff of something, and I saw Steve kind of flinch. And I just kind of went, oh no. And I closed my eyes and looked down, and I ended up catching like a 2-pound seagull square on the top of my shoulder. And it exploded. And I just done that enough that I ran a little wide, and I ended up going off the end of the track a little bit. Went through some nasty grass and stuff, popped back on the track, and there was a little gap back, and I was in 3rd. And it took about 2 laps for the feeling to come back into my fingers. It just hit me so hard, my whole arm went numb instantly. We had to be doing 120 or 130 miles an hour when you hit this bird, And so I fight my way to the front. I get back to leading the thing, and we're having this battle, and Steve and I go back and forth. He ends up winning the race. I got 2nd, but we show up to the podium, and it had been right there on TV. And Brian J comes over and he goes, oh, and he starts taking pictures, and I can't really see what's going on. But when I'd hit the thing, there was a bunch of bones sticking out of the hump of my leather. And, and then the technique guys were having fun with it. So I ended up I had a bird with the X's over the eyes on my suit, the next week. So yeah, that was a big one. I remember, and I don't know how many people would remember Vincent Haskavec, but he was,
I do.
He was Czech. He was super
fast.
He was fast, but he was also just like larger than life. You know what I mean? He's like, man, this bird guts all over me, man. He was all freaking out, just covered. He was covered in bird guts. It smelled so bad, like it was awful.
I love it, man.
Vincent was great.
Yeah, I remember Vincent, man. His unfortunate accident. Yeah.
I got some good Vincent stories though. He was a teammate of mine for one weekend at Attack in 2003. We did the Toyota 200. When Willow Springs lost their national, they were angry because they lost it to Cal Speedway, so they decided to have their own event, and they had a 200-mile race with pit stops on super bikes and had a big purse. So it was $50,000 to the winner. And Richard was like, heck yeah, let's go get that. And and Vincent was my teammate for the weekend. And he had a Czech or Russian girlfriend also. And she was out there. And we were leaving Willow Springs and going into Lancaster to Mary Callender's to have dinner. And so I get there first and I'm sitting there, and then Vincent comes in and sits down, and I'm like, dude, where's your girl? He goes, oh man, we had a fight in the car, man. And she wanted out. So I let her out. And we're talking like, this is October in the high desert. The sun's down. It's got to be like 45 degrees outside. And he left her on the side of the 14, like 10 miles from Lancaster in the middle of freaking nowhere. I'm like, Vincent, like, go get her. You think, man? I'm like, what? Yes. Okay, man. She wanted out, man. I don't know. Like, oh my God, what a story. Dude just left her on the side of the highway.
I love it, man. I love it, right? Yeah, that's oh my God. Chuck actually wants to know, what about Gobert?
Which one?
The Go Show.
Uh-oh.
Hey,
I'm in
Dad.
trouble. Hi, Hockey.
It's time for you to get in bed with me.
Oh, I'll be there in a minute. You go lay down. I got to finish doing this.
Okay.
Hey, go to bed. Go. Put them down. Put them down. I'm sorry, guys.
No, dude,
Put
you're
them
good,
in
bro.
pocket.
Trust me. I get it.
Hey. Thank you. He'll find a way if I'm on a phone call.
Dude,
Anthony.
Listen, it's the same thing. I'm like, you always want to call me when I'm talking to somebody.
So Chuck wanted to know about Anthony Gobert. I can't remember any Anthony Gobert.
Aaron, I guess he's talking
Aaron
about.
Was my teammate.
Yeah, that's
and
right,
Aaron, I saw some good Aaron stories too. I can't talk about too many of those. I remember hanging out with him and John Hopkins and them telling me stories about running down the road naked. I don't know. It was just, that was the Southern California guys. And it seems like most, like Aaron liked to have a few drinks, and his pants came off pretty regularly when it happened. Those Aussie boys, they were a little different. We're a little more shy.
Different.
We're a little more shy. He was very uninhibited. I remember a bowling alley incident where he stuck his wiener in a prominent member of the community's face who was passed out on a bowling alley like table. It was not good. He was his boss, I think, at the time. Yeah, I think actually at that one, Anthony said, "Hey, bro, you need to calm down. You're giving us a bad name." You know, like,
and that's rare if Anthony says that. You know,
it was pretty special, I think. You know,
oh,
but Aaron was actually, you know, like we had a good time. He was, you know, good teammate. Had some speed, you know, learned some things. Like I felt like we worked together pretty good. It's pretty funny now, though. I think he called Melissa recently. He's like, "Why are you still messing with that haze? Why don't you put me on your bike?"
Like, what are you doing? Still messing with him?
I think he was serious. I think he was serious too.
It's hilarious. Trevor Watson wants to know, what was the championship bonus back then?
Ooh, they were pretty good. Like I think the biggest ones I probably ever had were in the 300s. So, and it's, you know, I was the first of the drastically reduced contracts. I think most contracts, like the group before me, you know, they were 60% bigger than my contracts were, because like my ride was actually turned down at Yamaha because it wasn't enough money. I wasn't the first guy on their list. So it was a different time, but for sure, you know, we had for quite a few years, championship bonuses were in the six figures, and usually between 125,000 and 250 was pretty standard championship bonus, even for a support class. back then. 600 Super Sport was worth a lot of money. 750 Super Sport wasn't worth quite as much, but 600 Super Sport, though, that and Superbike were the two primary ones, and they were all like, I think in 2000 it was a $225,000 championship bonus or something from back then, for Super Sport.
Yeah, that's big too. Yeah, is it kind of the same today, or is it?
Nah, minuscule.
Yeah. Casey Davis, his son Ryder Davis, which is a future legend, is absolutely fast. He says, "Legend Josh Hayes is the real deal. Years and years in American racing, a guy who can ride a MotoGP bike for fun and finish 7th, then show up at a club endurance race and just be one of the guys. How do you not get burnt out of doing this for so long?"
I don't know, man. I still remember the things I love about it. I am around a community that treats me really, really well. Like, I've managed to keep my nose clean. I've tried to be honest, straightforward. My dad, humility was pretty strong with him. So every difficult situation I've been in, I've tried to manage in a way that was like, I told a lot of the guys I coach, if I can manage this situation, this difficult situation, in a way that my dad would be proud of me, it's going to be hard to get it wrong, no matter what the outcome is, right? And so one thing missing, I think, in the new generation is there's a lot of social skills that are missing. And I mean, we can think of a host of reasons of maybe why. A lot of the kids in our sport are homeschooled and not given the social thing. I went through full 12 years of, school with the motorcycle racing wasn't even a dream. There was no idea that I would ever race a motorcycle, even at the club level. So the social things that you learn in school about social hierarchies and groups and, all these different things. And I made some incredible relationships in my time, and you have to participate in those you have to help groom those as much as anybody coming to you. Right. And so the relationships I've been able to build, I have people still at the racetrack, who are like family to me. Rick Hobbs, their race director, guys like that Michael Martin, all these guys are really important people to me. And so I'm still around, even at the club races, I get to be around people that I was around 25 years ago who treated me good before I was anybody. And I get an opportunity to go ride motorcycles and play bikes with my friends. And the things that I loved about racing a motorcycle, the more than dragging my knee ever, was the feeling of acceleration and a power wheelie. And I strive to find that all the time. I love that feeling. I love the feeling of going into a corner a little too hot and being like, ah! and I have the gift of perspective, because I had it taken away from me for a few years. I mean, I was racing at a very high level, and then it's all kind of stripped away. And could you go still do these things? Yeah, but I didn't know where I fit in for a while, and kind of found my way back. And through a lot of the relationships that I built, Tony Romo at Dunlop is who brought me back to endurance racing after all those years. It was important. Dunlop it was an open tire class, one of the few left. It was important for Dunlop to go try to win that championship. And so he brought me back to endurance racing and said, "Hey, will you go do this? This is important to us." And I'm like, "Heck yeah." And I got back around the roots of it and felt it all over again, and still love it. And, there's different ideas about it, but as a racing purist, if I had the opportunity in my younger days, I hate losing, always will. But if I had the opportunities to ride if Miguel de Hamel would have ever shown up at an endurance race, I would have been thrilled. What could I learn from this guy? When can I see him on track? What can I see him do? What can I pick up from him? That was so much more important than that day's result to me. It was what can I go? How far can I get? And I need lessons. I got to learn things to get there. And so I enjoy riding at the racetrack and riding with these young guys and spending time on track. I got to see Ryder at Pittsburgh last year. This year, I got to do a lot of laps with Avery Dreyer at Birmingham and spend some time on the track with him. And we talked a little bit about it afterwards, and it was like, he had some speed and I was on a 8-gallon gas tank 4 hours into the race on one front, and you go, okay, this is what I'm willing to do, but I never made a mistake. And he's like, I kept waiting for you to make a mistake. I'm like, bro, I wasn't going to make a mistake. I could do this all day, So it was like, but it was an interesting thing for him to learn. I still think endurance racing is one of the best tools I've ever had in racing. So I still believe in it very strongly.
Yeah.
And I wish it was bigger. I wish more people would participate in endurance racing so that the series could go back to being a 10-race series, because I think it's so valuable. Especially, it gets a little backwards, but everybody thinks that racing is dying because of the advent of the track day. And there's a portion of, I would agree, the bang for your buck is so high at a track day. For $250, for an expensive one, you can go ride until your arms fall off. When you go to a race, there's 19 classes of 6-lap races, and it's so much hurry up and wait. And then you put new tires on for every 6-lap race to keep up with the Joneses. It's really taken a lot of the ability to learn in some ways out of some club racing. And the endurance thing, if you could get a couple people to get together and share a motorcycle and the cost of tires and this and that and go do a 4-hour race, it's hard to understand what you can learn spending an hour on a bike till it runs out of gas, trying to ride at the fast enough to contribute for your team and not lose ground, like even on a compromised setup. And you never know what you're going to get, and you get 1,000 opportunities to work through traffic and things like that. So I just think the value is incredibly high, and it's something that's not being taken advantage of in our time. When we're looking for bang for buck, that's the best one you got, and people don't do it.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of endurance racing. I tell everybody that's the best bang for the buck, because you get on a motorcycle that's not specifically set up for you. So the clip-ons and the brake levers and all that, but you learn how to ride it fast and consistent and for long periods of time when the tires wear. And you're right, it's invaluable.
My first 5 or 6 years, it was a part of the series, and it was something that we made a regular part of. And we all made sure that we participated in endurance, because I would go ride. I remember I was racing my Honda 600, and I could ride at this level, but I would go ride with a very good friend, Ken Melville, on Airport Racing. I'd go ride this ZX7 with him, and I'd spend 2 hours on it in a 4-hour race, just droning laps on this ZX7 and learning new passing opportunities and all these things. And then I would get on my 600, and I'd go faster than I ever went on my 600 on a track that I'd been to 100 times. You memorized reference points so cleanly, and you'd be able to make passes and be off the perfect line and still know where the edge of the track was, because you had seen it so much. It was like the familiarity was just invaluable on how to go about the confidence of approaching the next thing and going around a corner and knowing what's on the other side, because otherwise you're just waiting to see if there's a dragon there waiting to grab you.
I like that, right? Yeah. William Posse, man, another legend, right? He says, always a stand-up guy and an inspiration for many reasons, but more so because he handles all the stupid questions about age tactfully, even though I know he wants to tell them to pound sand. He gets it, race till the wheels fall off.
I appreciate that, William. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because in my 40s, I struggled more with it, I think.
Really?
And then now that I'm 50, I've had to embrace it. I didn't have much of a choice. It was a big joke. Like, I remember in 22 and 23, when I was doing the Squid Hunter thing, it would kind of like, it was just like, man, I had this just incredible number of fans that would come by, and they would like, man, I hope you win, man. And then they turn around, walk away, and they take 3 steps, and they stop and go, for the old guys. And I'm like, couldn't you just leave that part off? Like, it was just, and it happened. Like, once I pointed it out to some of the other people around, they were like, oh my God, it's every time. It never ends, And there's things that happen that give you perspective sometimes, And one thing I realized, and especially I felt like I got it a lot this year, and I had a young T Hobbs sitting next to me at every autograph session and stuff this year, and he would just say, "Oh, these are your people," or something like that when you get the older crowd that came by. And I just laugh and I go, I'll tell you a few things about my people. I go, my people are actually buying motorcycles. Your people's parents are actually buying motorcycles. You know what I mean? Like my fans are the ones, like Yamaha knows my fans have the money to go purchase a motorcycle. Right. And, but also, as this has progressed, I am astounded at how many, what's the word I'm looking for, but like genuine, just the kindnesses that people say, right? They're sincere when they come by and they go, man, you're an inspiration to me. And you're like the guy that lets me know I ain't dead yet. And I can still go have some fun and live life, And so I don't know that I was ever looking to be that guy, but I sure appreciate that people will appreciate my love for this, because I've never, we were talking about it beforehand, and I said, I don't know about this giving back thing, because every bit of this is for selfish reasons. I'm a taker from this world, and people celebrate me for it. And I don't know. Again, it's kind of like the other thing we talked about. Like maybe I'm the one with the problem. I don't know how much I should be praised for doing nothing but taking from this world, And I enjoy helping a number of young guys. I want to see them do good. And one thing I've tried to do with all my teammates, Josh Heron, Cam Beaubier, Tommy Aquino, Garrett Gerloff, even T Hobbs this year, is like I'm not afraid to help them be better, because if they raise their level, it'll just help me raise my level too. Yep. I appreciate competition. And one of the things I'm probably most afraid of right now is that I'm seeing in our sport, and it's not solely our sport, in a lot of sports in our world, is I really think we're some of the decisions that are being made, we're really getting lost on sportsmanship, character, integrity. A lot of these things are getting lost. I see some attitudes on the racetrack, and like, listen, man, I'm all about being revved up about racing, caring about your results, but there's a lot of missing things about just respecting your competitors. You don't have to like them, but we're in a pretty dangerous sport. It's a small circus, and we need every monkey in the circus for the circus to be good. And so all of us have to get to the finish line. You don't have to like them, but you got to respect them. And it's 100%. Really easy. It's really easy to get that wrong. And I feel like more and more often I see things that I think are not in the interest of character and integrity, but are in the, or sportsmanship, but are in the interest of a news-like excitement that they think will bring fans, like horrible news does. We can't stop looking at it because, and I really hope that we can find a way to clean that up, because I think this is a beautiful sport, but we got to teach our young guys to respect. And I mean, there are examples. It's everywhere. It's at MotoGP. It's at World Superbike, and everywhere in between.
No, I agree. I do. I see it too out there. It's not the same time we used to live in when me and you was growing up, Josh. Because I'm not. I'd say just a little, right? I mean, like it's.
There was something about knowing your dad would knock you upside the head if he saw something he didn't like, right? Like,
right.
Or right. A friend. Like, how many kids do we know right now that didn't go to a regular school, where the bully in school, if he might just walk up and go, "Hey, I don't like the way you look," or "Don't look at me like that, or I'll slap the teeth out of your mouth." Like very few of them have ever been afraid of a bully.
Yeah.
But that's a real world thing. From the internet, it's not the same. It's just not the same. Whenever people just say you're a hack or you're ugly on the internet, it doesn't hit the same.
It does not. You're right. And nowadays, we can't go. I remember when I was little, I used to go to the grocery store. My mom would whoop my ass in aisle 6, right?
Yeah.
Straight up. Now, dude, you
Yeah.
smack your kid in public, you're
You're
going
afraid
straight to jail.
You're afraid
Yeah,
to.
because you're going to jail. They're going to call the police.
You don't know how you'll be judged for trying to be a good parent in your eyes.
Facts.
Because of the least common denominator, the one guy who does actually beat the shit out of his kid, right? Like,
right.
just because I discipline my kid doesn't make me that guy. But
it's a fact, Josh. 100%. Dustin wants to know, he says he's late to the party. Josh, your 03-05 Super Sports season versus your 23-25 seasons, which felt like more competition both on and off the bike.
Oh, man. The competition level, I think it's more about depth. There were more people maybe in those earlier years than there was in the later years. But I am a believer. So I'm actually a believer of a top level racer is a top level racer. There are a few standout competitors, right? And they typically make it so far to be called legends or goats, right? You've got a Valentino Rossi, you've got Marc Marquez, right? Toprak seems to be on the way. That dude's pretty special, right?
He's legit, yeah.
Johnny Ray was. These guys were different, right? And they were what happens when you have incredible talent and incredible work ethic on top of it. They're the rare few. There are a lot of people that have work ethic that are an A- talent. A lot of work ethic, right? Then you have incredible talent. Wish they had a little more work ethic. I shouldn't give an example, but I'll say Josh Herrin to me, right? I wish I could have. I wish he would, if he were a little more on my way. I actually told him the other day, I go, man, if I had what you had and what I had, I think I would be right there with Valentino Rossi and the rest of them, right? Because he has something special.
Yep.
I don't know that he knew how to harness it that well. But that's what makes us all work, right? Like, that's what makes us all different and stuff like that. But the top level guys are top level guys at national championships, at world championships, and everywhere in between. So I don't look at most of the grid and say that they are a better motorcycle rider than Cameron Beaubier, Bobby Fong, Matthew Skoltz, Josh Herrin. They're not. But our opportunities, our relationships, the support systems around us, our path determines where we end up in the grand scheme. And I just think that there was more opportunity in those earlier years that you talked about. So there was more capable motorcycles on the grid, but the level was not way higher than now. It was just a lot deeper. There was just a lot more of them. Our first Daytonas for me in the 99 early 2000s, 100 people showed up for 80 spots on the grid, and all 100 could make the qualifying cut. And there were 28 paid guys in 600 Super Sport. So depth was incredible. The highest level was not any higher than the highest level guy now. It was just more of them, which really created a situation that you had to be on your game. So it really, that part made you sharp, because if you had an off day and you were off a little bit, you didn't get dropped from first back to third or fourth. You got dropped back to 10th or 11th, kind of like GP is now.
No,
right?
Yeah. GP's kind of boring though. I'm not a big fan of that whole aerodynamic and ride height devices, and
there's a level of it that is confusing, I think.
Yeah.
That doesn't, it's kind of lost some of the purity. And maybe when they go to these new bikes with a little bit less aero, it's going to change some of that. I think actually the tire pressure rule is probably the most silly thing I've ever seen. But I definitely think that everybody has gotten to this point with these motorcycles where it's such a fine line that it's so incredibly hard to pass. It takes an incredible amount of race craft that a lot of these guys don't learn well. They don't learn the racecraft side of it. They're all fast. But the creativity is not there to figure out how to make things work and make passes happen. And that's where a guy like Mark really stands out And I think that the work he does outside of what we see at the racetrack really is making a lot of that stuff pay off. Where a lot of guys are more like a Lorenzo style of just trying to be that metronomic knockout laps. And if you're faster than everybody else, you ride off into the sunset. That's great. But what happens when it doesn't go to plan? That's where a guy like Marquez really stands above him. And Rossi was the same way. Rossi was creative, and they were the only two guys for a couple years that would make a pass in the first 2 laps of a GP, the easiest opportunity to make a pass. They would make a mistake, but they were trying something. They weren't going to just sit in line until everything fell in their lap.
That's true. We got another dude, proper legend dude, Jeff May, bro. He says, how about the Macau since it's happening now? Yeah.
Probably the dumbest thing I ever done.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about it, man. It's such a unique track. It's over there in China. You got walls everywhere. Everybody remembers. Well, I hope they do. If not, you need to go back and look it up on YouTube.
Jeff did it the year I did. Jeff
I
did
know.
it with me.
So we'll get to that. But Kevin Swant's 500 GP, riding the wheelies around, looking around, the Pepsi bike, right? We all know. I'm a huge fan of. To me, Josh, it's the Isle of Man TT, then it's British Super Bikes, and then underneath that, it's Moto America, MotoGP, ASBK, World Superbike. I think the Isle of Man, to me, the real road racing is just it's so unique, but it's like one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. Right? It's just it's outstanding. And then you got the Macau, which it's black and yellow, just walls everywhere, barriers. You have no runoff. You can't make no mistakes, right? So tell me your experience about the Macau and your whole weekend.
I got tricked into it. I had no idea what it was. And Richard Stamboli says, hey, man, your team needs a vacation, and they've earned this, so we're going to go do the Macau Grand Prix, and you're going to go ride this thing. And Jason Pridmore just told me, hey, man, it's like you shouldn't do this. And I go, man, it's my guys. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I'm
what
going.
do you want to do, man? And so I go and I go, Jay, I kind of told Richard, I'm like, I heard I really probably shouldn't do this. He goes, man, like, look, we need a vacation. We're going to go do this. It's going to be fun. We're going to go to Macau. Then we're going to Thailand for a week and a half. Like, we're going to go do this. And I'm like, all right, okay, whatever. Cool. No problem. And then he drove me around the track.
And you was like, wait, what? Are you
what
kidding
am I
me?
doing here? What am I doing here with a super bike?
I'll go to the casino. Yeah, right.
I wouldn't ride a scooter around this track. Now, I will say that I learned more on that trip than I have any other trip in my life about the world, and it wasn't about motorcycle racing. But the race itself was just, I remember the first practice, right? We get to the end of the first practice, and we would stay out all night and then go to first practice, and then we go take a nap between practices, after being out the entire night. And maybe Jeff didn't. I don't think Jeff did. I think Jeff was probably the most professional of all.
One of everybody, right? Yeah.
And I remember coming in, and Richard has the sheets, and it's got 3 sectors and trap speeds. And so the first sector was like the front straight down to the Lisboa Hotel. And then there was like this 3-mile back section through all the stuff to the Milka hairpin or whatever it was. And then the last sector, which was pretty straightforward. And I was like P4 or 5 in the first sector, which had a 5th gear kink in it, right? Like it was insane to a first gear right at the end of the 6th gear straightaway. And I was like maybe in the top 5 in the last sector. And then I was like 33rd out of 40 in the second sector. And Richard goes, well, we're good in the first sector, good in the last sector. Bike's fast. And he kind of looked at me, and I went, kiss my ass. Like, you've lost your mind. And he's like, bro, you got to do something, man. We're Americans. We can't do shit here. Like,
you got to be kidding me. Yeah.
Stuart Easton and John McGinnis. I think John McGinnis won it that year. Stuart Easton was second. I think I ended up 5th, but I saw some awful things. There was a big crash in turn 1 that I was very, very close to, where a guy tucked the front, bounced off the wall. And I I saw what I thought was a bed mattress as I went by, and then it was like smoke. You know, it was a bridge over my head. There was smoke across the front, across the straightaway. And I popped out of the smoke, and I saw like the rider on the ground. And I remember thinking, I don't want to be too close to the guardrail in case something was stuck to the guardrail. I was trying to find the right spot to move away from it, And I'm just going through a dust or like smoke cloud. And as I popped through, his motorcycle had hit the outside wall, inside wall, and was coming back to the outside wall. And it looked like a comet sliding across the track with smoke coming off the end of it. And I had to accelerate to get past it. And I came back around to the pit, and I sat in the trailer, and I started tearing up. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Like, what am I doing here? And then another guy crashed. I think he had tucked the front on a qualifying lap or something, or like lost it on a paint line, went into pit lane, went over the guardrail, and it's all reclaimed land. And he ended up laying there with his broken legs, and his feet were in the water, like in the ocean, And I was just like, and I still rode hard enough to get fifth like an idiot. I told you I got a problem.
Love it, man. Oh my God, I love it, dude.
Yeah, I think it was me, Jeff, and Jeremy Toy raced that year.
That's right, Jeremy Toya. Yeah. That's again, it's one of those beautiful journeys, those beautiful twos that otherwise, if you never got involved with, you would have never experienced.
Yeah. So I happened to see that the race. I guess they had practice today.
Yeah, they did.
Practice.
Yeah.
And, I just saw an entry list. I didn't really see results, but I gotta be honest. I haven't watched it too much. I have very little even watching the Isle of Man. It's been a little. It's such a spectacle to me. It really actually doesn't appeal. I got on a show one time. They asked me. They got some of my crash footage, and they wanted me to be on the show where the only thing they cared about was me saying I was scared to death, or I was scared I was going to die. And I was just like, I'm such a believer that we're not daredevils, that this is professional sport. We wear very good equipment. We make this as safe as we possibly can for a risky sport. And, we're not daredevils. We're professionals. So I'm a little, I see the spectacle of the Isle of Man, and I understand maybe the draw to it, but I'm really not that interested.
Yeah, it's okay. Me, I love it, man. I'm glued. I remember the first time I seen it, and I was like, holy shit, what is this? Are you kidding me right now? Yeah. John Elliott says, what's up, Chris? Josh is a true legend. Absolutely legend. And an ambassador for sure. Listen, dude, we're almost 2 hours into this podcast, Josh. I want to just ask you a couple more questions, actually personal questions away from all the racing and all this. And then, I'll let you get back to dadhood and all that good stuff. And I'm going to go in here, and everybody's asleep maybe in my household. I don't know. Try to keep it quiet since I'm off work tomorrow and everybody else has got to work. So first thing I want to ask, man, is obviously you told us a lot about you, but tell us one thing that nobody probably knows about Josh Hayes.
Heck, I don't know. Like I'm an open book. I'm a pretty simple guy. I like playing tennis. A lot of guys give me a hard time about playing tennis.
That's right. That's right.
I mean? Like, I love tennis. And people ask me why, like a motorcycle racer playing tennis. I'm like, well, I get to hit a ball. I play a lot of doubles, right? So I get to hit a ball at somebody as hard as I can and not get in trouble for it. So I got anger issues. That's how I take it out.
I love it, man. I love it. What's your worst habit?
Probably yelling at my kid more than anything. That's all I ever get to do. I feel like it's awful.
It's hard.
Kids are hard. It's way harder than racing. And between that and sweets, freaking ice cream. Damn it.
So your ice cream meat for me, it's Sour Patch Kids, bro. You have Sour Patch Kids. I'm like, bro, I got to get a handful of those.
Dr. Pepper and ice cream.
Dr. Pepper and ice cream. You sound like my wife. My wife's a big doctor. See, I got ADHD. So growing up, I wasn't on Ritalin or any type of medicine. So my parents cut out like ice creams and sugars and red dyes and yellow dyes. Don't get me wrong. I still got it for my birthdays and stuff, but
that's why I pedal so much. Cause I just don't have the discipline to eat well.
Listen, Josh, one time I weighed 270 pounds. This morning I was 197 and a 34 waist. I used to be in a 40.
You lost a person.
Dude, I'm telling you, it was all, cutting out fast food, watching what I eat, and most importantly was breathing exercises, a little bit of exercises, ice bath, and listening to what my body was telling me as I was eating food. Right, your body will always tell you everything you need to know about yourself. You just got to listen. Meaning that example, we go out to eat at a Mexican restaurant, you're eating, all of a sudden your nose gets stopped up, or there's something that you're eating that your body's having a reaction to. You got to figure out what that is and cut it out.
I eat so fast. I don't get there until after I'm done. Dude, I eat like a baby dinosaur. Like, seriously.
I love it, man. I love it. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. Is that something you do too as well, or?
No, I'll tell you, the thing that's kind of come around recently is a lot of people are kind of polarized about him, but Jordan Peterson, he's got a 3 long lectures. They're long, man. Like I think it's like 10 2-hour lectures about Genesis. And then the next one is he's got 9 guys in a group, kind of like a round table discussion about Exodus, and then one about the Gospels. So I'm going through that, and I actually am doing that at Peterson Academy, and so I'm kind of trying to educate a little better, So I actually like religion's kind of been on my mind lately. So he had a 8-hour lecture about the Sermon on the Mount, and then I actually did one about a philosopher, Nietzsche, and so it's. The biggest thing is with the Mississippi high school education, the vocabulary is probably a little above my level, so I'm following the best I can. But it's just I have a hard time. We don't watch much TV, and I reading puts me to sleep so fast. I struggle to read unless I'm so enamored with something. But I'm bad about paralysis by analysis. I can't pick something and start. I can't. I just look at a bunch of books and go, yeah, they all look pretty good, and I don't know where to start, so I'll turn around and go do something else. So, and if the iPad, if I got this on, it's usually not podcasts very often. It's music.
Yeah. I was going to ask you if you listen to any podcasts, and if so, what do you listen to? I was listening to Joe Rogan, had Elon Musk on not too long ago, so I was listening. I think Elon's not a human; he's definitely an alien of some type of sort. He's so far out there, right?
I shouldn't be, but I really like the world's so crazy. I'm kind of disconnected from it, and I probably should do better. But a lot of scary stuff out there. I don't like
dude.
That's
is
like thinking there's a monster in the closet. I'm not going to open the closet.
I don't want to get out of bed because there's a monster under my bed. I'll just wait. Yeah. I feel you on that. If Josh had one superpower, what's the one superpower you'd have?
That's a good one.
Mine would be teleportation.
I mean, that would sure be nice and convenient. It can be hard not to.
Because I could be like, Josh, dude. Yeah, Josh, listen, I'll be at your house in like 2 seconds. We'll do the podcast there in your living room or wherever. Boom, there I am. Or I could be in Valencia or wherever, right?
As fast as my life moves, man, that would be so convenient. I might actually get to rest a little if I could do that.
That was one of the biggest tricks for me of obviously having a kid, was learning to get that sleep in, right? It seems like, man, before my son got here, I could sleep whenever, however, as long as I wanted. It didn't matter. Once he was here, it was like, sleep? What is that?
Man, I got a couple of great years of naps with the kids, and now they stop napping, the little bastards. So,
right? And they keep doing this and running even faster.
Let's go back. I like that napping thing.
We all did, dude, for sure. Let me ask you this, dude. In your personal opinion, who is the most underrated rider in Moto America right now?
Ooh, that's a good one. Underrated rider. That's a good question. I think there's a few of them. The most, I don't know. That's kind of tough. I think Andrew Lee. I like what Andrew Lee did, and the fact that he's won these championships, and I hope that he can figure something out. So I think he's potentially the most underrated. He is pretty underrated. I think Blake Davis. I think that his path is going well, right? And Richie Escalante.
Yeah.
I like Richie a lot too.
Yeah, I do too. Blake's a good buddy of mine. Him and his dad, Mike, they actually only live 45 minutes from me. They're in Lynchburg. I'm in Roanoke. So, yeah, they're hometown boys for sure. Dude,
I'm probably missing one there. I'm just like, that's not an easy one. I need some time to think on that one.
What do you think about the whole Talent Cup versus Junior Cup?
I'm definitely more a fan of the Talent Cup machines, of a prototype style machine. From day one, I have not liked Junior Cup motorcycles, the production 300, 400 motorcycle. I think that it's a fine training tool on a go-kart track where it's somewhat overpowered for the racetrack that you're riding on. But taking these bikes to big tracks, Moto America Championships, having 14 and 15-year-olds racing for a national championship, I understand what people want in this like idea of how we get to a person in MotoGP. I don't think that's the path, and I think that my personal opinion, this is just as a coach or whatever you want to say, is Junior Cup bikes, these 300s and 400s on full size racetracks teach terrible habits that are really hard at a critical time in their learning, that is really difficult to take out of them whenever they move up to the middleweight and heavyweight motorcycles. So I'm not a huge fan of what they teach. And like I said, it can be a great training tool on a go-kart track. But I think that the bike has to be somewhat overpowered for the racetrack that you're riding on, because that's what middleweight bikes and big bikes are like.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing I would love to see back in Moto America is tire wars. What do you think about that? Bringing Pirellis and Bridgestones and Michelin's back into it.
I mean, I remember how we got here, right? So that kind of helps. And there's definitely, it's really easy no matter where we are to say the grass is always greener. But for racing to be, you want good racing or you want bigger, faster development, right? And if you make it competitive in a tire war, there's definitely going to be faster development, but the price you pay for that is there are special tires, right? And there are things that people get, some guys get, that not everybody can get. And so even within your group, whatever your tire manufacturer is, if you're not the guy, you're not going to get the stuff, right? And some guys get some free tires, and the rest of the guys pay for that development, right?
Yeah.
So when you have a spec tire, you know that everybody's on the same thing across the board, so the fairness is there, right? And because of the contracts and how they're able to structure it, everybody pays, but it's at a more reduced rate, and it's easier for everyone to go racing, in my opinion. So I don't know that it's better because it's open, but it offers people who might not be at the front now might find an advantage. It's just like having this motorcycle, this brand builds a new bike that's now a step ahead of everybody. And so they get into the mix better until this bike gets developed up. And then everybody's going to be ahead or behind a little bit. And right now, the most critical thing that you put on the motorcycle for a lap time is a tire. And so right now, everybody's on that same structure, right? Because the first thing you can change to just change everything is once you put a tire on there, who knows?
Yep.
Who knows?
I haven't thought about it in that perspective, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I always looked at it as a good thing, having different tire.
It is for development.
Yeah,
it is for development because it
right.
forces and pushes development, but then special development tires show up. And not everybody can
for
get
certain
them.
people.
In our experience in past, I remember when I went to Australia, every manufacturer is allowed to homologate, like 2 or 3 tires. But honestly, policing that is nearly impossible because it puts a lot of pressure and emphasis on Moto America being able to, they have to be able to police it. And that's nearly impossible. Once you make it a tire war, and it's important. Like, man, for years, think of the money. Michelin used to send security guards, because Michelin and GP at one time, when it was an open tire series, would ride on Friday, send the data back, build a tire Friday night, ship it Saturday, so they'd have a race tire on Sunday. That was something that nobody had ever put on a motorcycle before at the GP level. So it's like, it's just an indicator of what they'd be willing to do. Maybe they know about this racetrack, so they send a special tire that's labeled like this. How hard is it to change a mold if you have a race tire company that can build out one-off special tires?
Yeah.
You know, it's so hard to police that I just like, there is definitely an advantage to the depth of everyone gets a fair shake if everybody's on the same rubber. Even if somebody has a better bike, if they have a bad day, you have a better chance if you at least know you're on the same tires. If you can't get the same tires as them, you never get a shot.
Yeah. Well, listen, Josh, this has been absolutely amazing, bro. We're 2 hours, over 2 hours into this podcast, man. No, dude, listen, this has been,
I'm long-winded.
No. Listen, it's been a dream. Like I said before we even started this podcast, I feel like I actually made it by having you on this podcast. Seriously.
Well, thanks for having me.
Listen, it is, the honor is absolutely mine. I actually have one more question that I do want to ask you. And then I want to give my little shout outs, and then I'll let you end the podcast by, giving all your shout outs and all that stuff too. So I ask all my friends this question that come on the podcast is, money, no object for Josh Hayes. You could have your own team in Moto America. Money, no object. What class would you be in? What's the manufacturer motorcycle you would have? And who are the 2 current riders you would put on your team?
Man, it's got to be Yamahas.
I already figured that, right?
But, I mean, it's tough. Okay, Superbike's the premier class, right? So you're going to want to be, I want to be in the show, just like I was as a racer. As far as pure love of riding, I probably enjoy super sport bikes more. But Superbike was where the fast guys were, and that's where I wanted to be. So, you put a Yamaha out there, and that's a good one. It's hard. It's hard to say. I mean, I have relationships with so many people in this paddock. It's really hard to kind of pick them out, but it would be hard to bet against both. Like I got to see him from the ground up, from the day he showed up to where he is now. And he's so well put together, and there are attributes of so many of these guys I like, but there's some like unrealized potential I want to see in Bobby Fong. I would love to have a guy like that with that much heart on my motorcycle. SDK, at where he's at and everything, I just think he's in a great place to really start to skyrocket. And we'll see where he ends up and what he ends up doing. But I think he's the one that stands out to me right now as like a really high potential. Richie Escalante and his heart, it's hard not to love that kid, right? So, man, it's hard. I don't know. I would need a committee of people to help me see all the angles I'm missing. I have my ideas about so many of them, and I look at all of them and I go, I think in this situation, we can make you a winner. And if we can do this, we can make you a winner. If we can do this, we can make you a winner. Right. And so it'd be hard for me to pick 2, because I feel like there are a lot more than that I could do with, and I'd need some help from outside people to help me narrow it down. Right. I need wins today. It's going to be Cam Beaubier. If I can look to the future, it opens up a lot of options for me.
Yeah, for sure. And, Cam Warhorse Ducati was the announcement last night. Yeah. And then, I think it's a great move, man. I think,
yeah.
We'll see what happens next year. It's going to be an exciting year.
It has a lot of potential to be a very boring season, but I hope a lot of people are going to raise their level. And if there's any teething problems, I think there's still potential there to have a good one.
110%. Man, Josh, so I can't wait. I'll be at Daytona in March, so I can't wait to catch up with you at Daytona. It's always an honor to see you at the track. I always want to say hi when I see you, but it always ends up to when I do get to finally see you, you're always talking to somebody, and I don't want to interrupt her. I know you are. I know. That's why when I caught you at Atlanta, when me and Easy were standing there talking, I was like, now is my opportunity to ask Josh to come on my podcast, right? I'm a firm believer that, dude, everything happens the way it's meant to happen, right? And it's always a time and a place for me to ask these questions and have these conversations. So that just happened to be mine and your time in place to make it happen. So Josh, first I want to say is, and I said this before we went live, man, thank you so much, dude, for all the emotions, man, throughout your career, dude. I've been a super fan of yours. Matter of fact, when I see you, I'm gonna bring that picture that I told you about of me and my boy Rossi he was okay until you kind of went to put your arms around him, then he just lost his shit, right? And I'm laughing. I'm like, dude, it's cool, Rossi, it's cool. But again, man, you know, you are an absolute legend of the sport. You are a true inspiration for many, many people from around the world, man. And again, thank you so much.
Thanks for the kind words.
Listen, it's the truth, my friend. Absolute truth, man. It's been an absolute honor to sit down with the legend Josh Hayes tonight, man. Josh, and I just want to first say thank you to everybody that tuned in, that watches this podcast. It's because of people that everybody that watches this and people like Josh that come on here is I'm the reason why I'm able to do this. I love each and every single one of you. Usually it shows a heart up. Let's see if it'll do it. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it don't. Well, anyway, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. This episode will be out everywhere, Spotify, or out in about 30 minutes. I'll send you the link. That way, if you ever get bored, you can throw the earbud in and listen to me. And you, but listen, man, it's been an honor, Josh. It really has. And I made it, dude. I'm proud of myself. I got the legend Josh Hayes on the podcast. Let's go, right?
Maybe I'll do something exciting this year. We can do it again and talk about something.
Listen, it'd be an absolute honor to sit back down. There's so many more questions I have for you, so we'll definitely make that happen, man. Can't wait to see you this season coming up and get some more of those wins, man. Get that number one win tally back from KMB.
Man, dude, he's a kid. He's got so many years. Like, come on, man. It's his. He's gonna get it. He's gonna have it. If anything, maybe I could just put a little pressure on him, and so I can rib him a little bit about it. But that's about it.
I love it, man. Well, Josh, again, man, seriously, absolute honor. Can't wait to see you at Daytona. I'll be usually the race I go to is Daytona, Atlanta, VIR, in New Jersey and Mid Ohio. Awesome. Never been to Barber, so I think I'll skip Mid Ohio and do Barber next year. So
need to go to Wisconsin.
I've been there, dude. I've been to Wisconsin twice. The cheese curds were amazing. I had some of the best fish at the little restaurant next to the lake. I forget what the little restaurant was where this lake was.
Elkhart Lake.
Yes, man, it was so good, Josh. And then I kept hearing about the spotted cow beer. Everybody said you got to try a spotted cow. You got to try this beer, and it was absolutely amazing. So
awesome.
Yeah, man. Listen, Josh, is there anything you want to say to everybody? Any shout out?
Appreciate you having me on, and with any luck, I'll be back on Bryce Prince's R9s next year and try to make another splash.
That's right. Let's go. And ladies and gentlemen, on that note, it's been an absolute honor today to sit down with the legend, Josh Hayes. Let's go, baby. All right, Josh, I appreciate it, man. I'll shoot you a text, man. I appreciate everything, and I will see you soon, my friend.
Take care, bud.
You too, man. See ya.
Calling all two-wheel enthusiasts, get ready to rev up your earbuds with Pin the Gas Podcast, the ultimate motorcycle racing podcast, hosted by Chris Simcoe, one of our very own excellent leaders here in Roanoke, Virginia. With expert analysis, behind-the-scenes stories, and exclusive writer interviews, Pin the Gas Podcast delivers the adrenaline rush of the racetrack straight to your ears. Whether you're a diehard fan or a curious newcomer, you'll gain insights that will transform how you watch and understand motorcycle racing. On your favorite podcast app, join Simcoe as he takes you on a high-speed journey through the world of motorcycle racing. Pin the Gas Podcast.
All right, Josh.